Kitty Carter's at the welcome table, and Phoebe Otis will be doing the open mic. She'll be handling that and will guide us through that. Please turn your cell phones off. And I'm going to introduce Mr. John L. Reed, who is president of the Zion Union Heritage Museum. He is also vice president of the Cape Cod NAACP, and he has very many other credentials. He's worked very hard on everything from gang awareness, college preparation, bullying in the schools, diversity in the workplace, among other things. And I'll let him begin. And you're on, John.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And this is a unique gathering for me and an opportunity to share. But the most important reason why I decided to come down is we had some outreach from Reverend Brenda, Diane, Wave, who came up to the museum to see what we were doing. And we are doing a number of things. Materials over here, like everybody that takes them, of course. Part of the Black History Month programs are over there. Our regular brochure is there. I have 10 artists in residence in the museum. So our family is that we are all teachers. It could be them as well as me. She chose me. And I say to them all the time, we can take as many people that want to go or that you're asking for. But because we have 10 of us and all of us are professionals and all of us are teachers. We are interracial, multi-talented. I'm not a artist of sorts where I create artwork. I am a other kind of artist. I create DVDs. I create documentaries. And more importantly, I taught school as a history teacher for 25 straight years. Then I became a truant officer, for all things. And it's like, why the truant officer? Well, I went after those kids who kind of didn't want to be in school, had to reinforce the value of school, and recognize something of a talent that was in Earth that I had was, where do you come from? I came from inner city Boston. So for me it was, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon or china. I grew up with a paper plate and a plastic spoon. So being poor wasn't a problem. It's not being poor remains the issue. Now you have to ask yourself a question. You want to be like that the rest of your life, or you want to do something different? I chose to be a teacher because this is what I'm good at. And in this documentary that we're going to show, it is called Untold Stories. The history, Journeys into the Light, Untold Stories, the history of people of color on Cape Cod. There's a reason for the documentary, and after being here for 40 years, and this is kind of very strange for me. I have been here since 1973. I've never lived anywhere for 40 years, not even in my mother's house. But nevertheless, the question remains, what do you know about people of color on Cape Cod? Who are the heroes, who are the sheroes? What did they do? Where did they come from? How long have they been here? The irony of the story is I love messing with people in Hyannis, and I challenge the people at some of the museums and ask the question, where are we at in your museum? What? Where are we at in your museum? We're good enough to work in your house. We're good enough to cook your supper, drive you to wherever you wanted to go, but we were forgotten. Are we not people? Secondly, especially for the Kennedy relationship with African American communities across this country. When I grew up in the 60s, in most black houses, there were 3 pictures on the wall. Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King, and JFK. Now, I asked the same question of the people at the JFK Museum, both in Boston and in Hyannis. Did you know that JFK's secretary was black? Yeah. Did you know his driver was black? And Jackie came on a regular basis and depended upon Betty Mendes, who lives in Marston's Mills, who was a member of the church my museum is in, half of the people that went to the Zion Union Church in Hyannis worked in Hyannisport. The Rosa Parks of Cape Cod, Eugenia Forts, is in this DVD. She was the person who used to raise the Kennedy children. They used to come to her house on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, when I went to be an intern for Senator Edward Kennedy in D.C., it was kind of interesting because he came back on Thursday afternoons, but he often took the dogs and went over to her house to pick up his pastries. And this lady's 83 years old. She wanted me to help her by going to get the stuff. And he used to come, John, how you doing today? I'm saying, "Yeah, here goes another day, as I told you, that I had to leave the house because we got company." But he got his pastries done. And that was his journey. You will see in this documentary some things you probably never heard of. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of the documentary. I'm going to show half of it, stop, do some Q&A, and show the second half. But there is a connected to Provincetown. And this is something we did in the research. It's taken 3 years to do this documentary. But this is something that we did in the research. Who talks about black whalers in P-Town? Who knows there were black whalers in P-Town? Who talks about the Provincetown Theater? Or who may have come here or performed here? How about Paul Robeson? How about James Weldon Johnson? Yes? And a litany of other folks that come here in the summertime or during the season to be part of Provincetown. I said to the librarian, and I love this lady, "You have things here that I've been looking for." I've been trying to negotiate with some gentlemen down here who had a black whaling exhibit that they showed at Cape Cod Community College. There was some conflict within the family, so that didn't work quite the way I want. So what I did was, I have another document that I got my hands on. It has a list of the ships that came here with black whalers. That did not come from the people down here, it came from New Bedford. But in this newspaper, though, it has ports of call of people who are Africans, Cape Verdeans, Native Americans, and the irony of the story is the whole thing starts in Provincetown.
John,
Sir?
do you want to take a little stretch? Do you want
No,
to
I'm
get
fine.
something
I
to
want
eat?
to.
Do you want to talk?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So, can you talk while people move around?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you, John.
Now, what you've seen so far is one half of the film. It's not the whole thing. But I want to make sure that there's two major pieces that you understand. Most of the people talking, they're part of the museum staff. Most of the artwork is in the museum. Only the parts that show the natural settings in the ocean, and even the abolitionist houses, we found them on 6A. We even found a couple places down here. Janet Murphy Robinson, who is our main filmmaker, and I sat down and went through a manuscript that's about that large. We have enough material to write a book. And most of it is not even in the DVD. But when you have to synthesize things in a short period of time, but be informative, what we try to do is incorporate what is pertinent. There are other things you're about to see, the second half, that deals with the migration of people to the Cape after World War I, why they came to the Cape. People went to the vineyard, they came down here. This was vacation land. So, it drew people here. I was thinking when I was sitting over there about another John Reed that lived down here. And that's the same John Reed who was the writer, who ended up in the Soviet Union of all places, and wrote the book 25 Days That Shook the World. But the wild part of that is there are a lot of P-Town connections and Cape connections in this DVD. We do not want to create a documentary that shows people off Cape. We wanted people on Cape to see what happens here and what happened here, not just what's presently in the past, but what's going on right now. And as I was saying to Diane when I came in, we are in the midst of a second work. It's called The Next Generation. So what happens to the 40-year-olds? What's their story like? Most of the people you see in here, including myself, we're Medicaid card carriers at this point. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble and make anybody feel old, because yes, I've joined the geriatric squad myself. And the wild part of this is nobody thinks about that. But when you say, tell me a story about young people or young families or people who currently live here, what was your experience like? How is it different from this? I said during the pre-session that the two things that bothered me the most in life, that changed my life, was one, seeing somebody get murdered, and two, was this, during Vietnam. Because people I grew up with who went, some did not come back. And the trick of the trade was, how'd you get there in the first place? How'd you go from the streets of Boston to Vietnam? We don't know any Vietnamese people. Matter of fact, the only people we knew were Asian, were people who ran a Chinese restaurant. Beyond that, we never seen anybody from Vietnam and didn't even know where Vietnam was on a map. Most Americans didn't know. They just knew it was their patriotic duty to be part of something to defend the country. But I don't want to be crass, and for any veterans in the room, I'm not showing any disrespect, but I want to simply say, my father was a 35-year Navy veteran, and his house is the same as his ship. We're not going to talk about anything other than what he wanted to hear. My brother went in the Marine Corps. I decided to go to college because that's what they wanted. We still have that to this day. When people are telling people, well, college is too expensive, you need to go in the armed services first, men and women. Yeah, women in combat now. Is it a viable option to tell people that? In some cases, yes. In other cases, no. But it's an option. It's not mandatory. It's not like the world's going to come to an end, or we need to be the people who are proponents who talk about what's going to happen here. We have enough xenophobia in this country. We have enough people waving the flag on fears of things they really don't get. As you watch the rest of the movie, at the end when we do a Q&A, ask the tough questions. My skin is not thin. It is rather thick. You can't live on Cape Cod 40 years as an African American male and have thin skin. It just don't happen that way. I'm not going on vacation. I'm on vacation. Now, I'm serious. I'm not kidding you. You can't live here without having thick skin. Because if you're of the thin skin nature, you will do something probably out of anger more than out of empathy, because the reaction is sometimes oppressive. And people don't understand where you're coming from. As I said earlier, I don't jive talk, I articulate. So please enjoy the second half, and then we'll talk.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Just the lights?
That slaves in Texas finally heard they were free. Although the Emancipation Proclamation freed people in states against the Union in 1863, January 1, but it didn't reach South Texas, East Texas, and West Texas until June 19th, 1865. Okay? So celebrations down here, as well as in Boston, are usually over in Falmouth. They have a big thing at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, and that's where the celebration has been held. The Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute Marine Biological Labs Black History Month brochure is over on the table.
Why did it take so long for the people of color to get federally recognized?
You mean
Here.
Wampanoags?
Yes, it took. I mean, I saw it 2007, 30-year struggle. What do you think was the reason?
Let me explain that in a different way. The Wampanoags were the first people who were here on the Cape. Massachusetts is a Wampanoag name. The Massachusetts tribal group consists of Algonquin-speaking people who are throughout eastern and central Mass. The federal recognition is kind of tricky because initially it was John Eliot who was sent down here from Harvard to bring religion to Mashpee Wampanoags. At that point, they were recognized as a tribe. But they called the area Marsh P, not Mashpee, because they lived around the marshes and the lakes. In the town today we call Mashpee, there has been numerous attempts to get federal recognition of Wampanoag people on the Cape. The first one was to say the land in the town of Mashpee, the formal land, belonged to the tribe. Because others had come there, that became a conflict. In the Massachusetts state legislation, they would not grant Mashpee Wampanoags recognition. The federal government, through the Department of the Interior, is the decision makers which tribes get land. They had to prove they were a tribe at 5 different historical dates. In the end, they were able to prove that during each interval, the group still existed as a viable group of succession. I want to use the word succession, generation after generation. The actual language spoken by the Wampanoags was captured by Jessie Little-Doe-Bear, and she's teaching it at Mashpee High School right now. And one of the other unique pieces is that they have built a new cultural center in Mashpee that tells the history of Wampanoag people of Cape Cod. Even the folks down here who were part of the bands called the Nauset Bands, they were part of the Wampanoag Nation.
So the Zion Union Heritage Museum, is it open every day? Is it?
No, I'm only one person. And the museum is open seasonally at different times. We're open Thursday through Saturday in the wintertime, and we're open Tuesday through Saturday in the summertime. We open at 11 to 3 or 4, depending upon what the crowd flow is. But we've had, and celebrated this year, we have about 37 busloads of people coming from all over the country. Average of 50 people a busload.
Good.
So have we grown, Reverend Brenda? We've grown. But we're getting the word out on our own. We're not waiting for people to say, hey, you know, I never heard about you before. Well, guess what, folks? We have something called Mobile Museum. If you can't come to us, we'll come to you. And like I said, all of what you've seen in the DVD, all of the people speaking, they are the board of directors and the artists that are in the museum. They can do the job as well as I can, but we all do it together.
Can we become a member of the Zion?
Just so happens I have forms right over there.
Okay, there are pamphlets right there, and so
No, forms. Better than that. I even brought the forms. If you want to join, I'll leave the forms with you. You can do it on your own leisure and send it back to us.
How difficult was it for the people of color to move up in rank? You know, regarding the people, the whalers and the harpooners, was that an issue that?
In terms of the whaling industry, it's a skill-based industry. Whoever gets on a ship can't get off. It's not a 1-month journey or anything like that. It was a 3-year journey. So you pretty much signed up based on your nautical skill. It did not necessarily mean you were a harpooner. It was based on the skill you learned. There were 3 black ship owners in either Nantucket or Westport, Massachusetts. We didn't show you Paul Cuffey, who actually owned the fleet of ships. And it was his ships that took blacks who were free from the South to Liberia and founded the country of Liberia. He was commissioned by President James Monroe to do that. But Paul Cuffey was one of the wealthiest black men who lived in Massachusetts, and he not only was involved in international trade, he was involved in whaling too. And he was the ship captain master. By rank, the captain's share was the highest amount a person could get paid, but the company had to get paid first. So it descended by job, by rank, and by title. Everybody got a share depending upon what they did. And it was probably the least segregated of all occupations. That's what attracted a lot of people to the ocean. Because you're not getting off a ship. Whoever's there is there. And I don't want to get into Moby Dick or Melville, but here's the interesting part. Even in the writings of Moby Dick, you notice there are Queequeg, who is a Wampanoag, as part of this crew. There are other members who are people of color who are part of the crew. So it's not one of them deals where you can say, hey, I don't want to talk to you. No, you got to talk to them because everybody's there for the same reason. and we don't get the wells, we don't eat. We don't pay the company, the ship can't go back up. So you can't.
Didn't they still give people of color the most dangerous jobs on the
Absolutely. And the Nantucket sleigh ride was when you put the dory over the side of the boat after you harpooned the whale, and the whale just took off. Sometimes you could get the whale back, but other times you might be going a couple of miles before that whale slows down. Chances of the dory flipping over is very good. Okay?
Who had it easier rising up in the ranks, you know, of
There's
people of color? You
No,
know?
wait. Let me clarify something. There's no easier. If you're part of a whaling ship, everybody is part of that ship. Everybody has a job, or they will let you off the next port. Because you're not doing the job, you're going. We need skill-based people, not racial-based people. Either you have it or you don't have it. Okay? Anything else? Hey, I'm not bashful, don't be bashful. All right.
I think we got the right of the folks are about to speak.
If you like something,
John?
yes.
How do you feel the conditions are for people of color right now on Cape Cod?
I think they're going backwards. I think that in terms of where people are coming from, sometimes you don't know where folks are coming from. We have people running for office right now who are talking about deporting 11 million immigrants. You have people down here who agree with that. It's like, we don't want them people here.
Right.
Summer's over, they need to go home. And them people that they're talking about are the same summer people, summer workers primarily, who were invited here to work here. All of a sudden, I saw people walking the street today of color who I know were not original Provincetown folks. They come from the Caribbean. I talked to two of them. Matter of fact, they told me where the library was. Now, brothers and sisters know how to do that very well. We can talk to each other. But nevertheless, let me just say this to you. There are so many H1 visas, HV visas that are out that we have people from all over the globe who come to Cape Cod to work. They're not just people of color. But here's the difference though. Who gets treated how and who gets what job? And where do they live? We've done cases where we know that there are 11 people to a house. And one guy even wanted to charge for a shower.
Oh.
Oh yeah. He said he had the right to charge for water because he owned them. And I took him properly to court, and we paid the workers back their fair share of wages because they exploited them, not only wanted to charge them.
Mr. Reed,
John is fine.
John, what an incredible film. Thank you so much. You're making another one too now?
We're researching.
and
Janet is on my case about, John, what do we do with all the material we have?
the meet and greet that you came to was co-sponsored by the Racial Justice Provincetown group. Many of you are here. And I think this is a beginning, John. I don't think this is the end. I think you said there's a series of people who will talk about, so let's just say this is a beginning. Is that okay?
As the messenger of the people from Mid-Cape, there are more than me.
Okay.
There are many more than I.
So, I'm sorry to cut you off. I can see we could be here forever.
No, we're not going to be here forever.
They do turn the lights out. And we do have two open mic. So let's give a wonderful hand for John Reed. John L. Reed. And there's so much that you said. I think we're just going to have to take it in, John. And yeah.
Give you a round of applause.
And this is the beginning here. I mean it. I really do. So I just want to say before the camera goes off, what? I will give this to Brenda.
That belongs to the people of Provincetown.
Okay, and I will give it to the Racial Justice Provincetown, and I'm sure we will have showings, films. Maybe we'll show this again.
If you want more, you can always call me.
Order it.
Order it. I'll send it.
Thank you.
Okay.
$20 a piece.
Great.
All right.
Make it out checks to Zion Union Heritage Museum Incorporated.
Zion Union Heritage Museum, and also we have back here for the scholarship. This is all going. All this money goes to the scholarship.
Thank you.
Okay, and next month we're having Yvonne D'Souza and she's going to talk about Ms. Madness. It's about her story of multiple sclerosis, and we're going to benefit how? Helping our women. And we also have a short play workshop, writing workshop on February the 19th here. You can sign up for it or let Matt know. So thank you very much. We'll see you next month, and thank everyone for coming. And lastly, Dawn! Woo! Really appreciate it, especially